Okay, Julie is going to ask our third question to the appendix.
So the Serrano HOA is now celebrating its 20th anniversary. What is your vision for our HOA over the next 10 years?
Okay, and Mr. Hammond, you're up, sir.
What a great question, and I've got a great answer. Y'all know I've been coaching for 40 years, and one day, one of my kids said to me, he played on my football team, my baseball team, my basketball team. He played everything, couldn't play a lick, was not an athlete, but he loved me, and that was good enough. So he came to me one day and says, "Coach, guess what?" I said, "What?" He said, "Everybody doesn't want to play football." I said, "How come you play?" He said, "Because of you." I said, "How come you play basketball?" He said, "Because of you." "Come play baseball." "Because of you." He said, "But sometimes we like other things." "Coach, I like to dance. Can we get a theater going? Why can't we build a theater?" So in answer to your question, in 10 years, why can't we have a theater here? Why can't we have a theater of arts in this town? Why can't we have a community center in this town? Why do we have to go down to Folsom when we go see a play? Why can't we do it here? Think about it. We want to go to a community center, why can't we go here? We have the resources to be great. It's up to us if we're going to do that. So where do I see us in 10 years? Big time, honey. Community center, theater, multi-purpose room, you name it. We can do it. If we didn't have the resources, I wouldn't suggest it, but we do. That's why I see us in 10 years.
Thank you, Mr. Hammond. Mr. Pridewell?
Well, in 10 years, I would expect that the community is more of a community. Right now, we're in these little villages, and there's no interaction basically in the villages. What I would like to see happening is a representative in every village that would speak to those particular village problems, and then also act as a point of contact for all of the people in the village. And eventually, it's really more of expanding the fabric of the HOA board of directors to have better communications and better outreach to the people that live in the community. That would be one thing that I would like to see. I think that the way that we're managing our money is in the HOA, because we really do have limited funds based upon what's going on in the HOA. There's a lot of wasted money, and they're spending our money for a lot of different things. I won't really go into them right now, but they're spending a lot of money that we're slowly uncovering. And so what I would like to be able to see is a totally transparent board of directors and HOA, one with a lot of fiduciary responsibility where we can. I actually believe that we can lower the dues if we go in and we start looking at where all the waste is. And so we can lower the dues and also maintain the level of service to the homeowners. We want the community to maintain this high standard of architecture that we've got going here in with the common areas and people's homes. Everything is beautiful here. There's a lot of complaints about the way these standards are being applied. They're not necessarily being applied fairly. They're difficult to deal with. And so I'd like to see us have a system where we can make these changes so that they're not so painless for the homeowners. When I painted my house, I had to go back 3 or 4 times because they kept telling me one thing versus another. And that's pretty much what everybody says that I've heard. It's a big horror story when you want to change the color of your house. I mean, something that simple. And they reinvent the wheel every time you try to paint your house. So a lot of little things that aggravate us that I think should not aggravate us. We can still have a beautiful community without being nitpicked to death on the things that they nitpick us. So that's pretty much my vision.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Brightman. Thompson.
Well, again, sometimes going last is tough because you hear some of the good stuff, but let's talk some specifics. When you say community center, boy, I'm with you. I've never lived in a master plan community before that didn't have a clubhouse of our own, right? The space you're sitting in now, we spend $14,000 a month here to lease this from the developer. So this is the developer's building that the developer's paying their note on, and we contribute $14,000 a month for this space. When we have annual meetings, we do it at the firehouse. When we want to meet about the Silver Valley Exchange, we do it at the library. Because we somehow, after 20 years, have equity in nothing but the guardhouses. And those are too small to hold meetings. Last time I checked. So everything we do is on the meter is running for everything that we do. It's frustrating to me that an A-plus community like Serrano doesn't have a clubhouse or a community center. Where are the pools? Where's the gyms? I didn't join a gym when I moved to Serrano. I just assumed that the country club coming from Sacramento was the clubhouse for the community, and that as a member of the HOA I would have access to the gym. It's not the case. Many of us know that. So that's great. You've got a world-class golf course here. There's no arguments about it. I don't play golf. But I do go to the gym, and I had to buy a gym membership because we have no common space here of our own. It's mind-blowing to me that a community that generates as much revenue as ours doesn't own anything. All our maintenance trucks, all our security trucks, we pay Parker to park them on one of his parking lots. We rent parking lot space. In this building, the website you all go to pay your bills, we rent the server from Parker. And up until recently, if it wasn't for Dean Getz, every stamp and on every envelope that comes out, you rent from the developer to use his postage meter. 20 years. We've been here for 20 years. So where are we at in the next 10? How about on our own? It just would seem to me that the Serrano El Dorado Owners Association should be run by owners. And that seems like such a ridiculous concept to say out loud till you realize it isn't. You don't even own that logo that's on every gate in this community. You don't own it. At any point, the Serrano Associates LLC can say we have a service mark and you're no longer allowed to use it. That is the absurdity of the current situation. So 10 years from now, I'd like to see us in our own building. But I'd like that building to take shape from what the owners want it to be. Do you just want office space? Do you want pools? Do you want a gym? What do you want? Nobody's ever asked you before what you want. I think it's way overdue. So rather than me tell you what I think Serrano should look like in 10 years, how about I ask you what you think it should look like in 10 years? And then you have some stake in it. You have some ownership in it. But I can tell you that when I walked in this room 3 months ago, the room you paid $28,000 for recarpet. And the Parker Development Company business license was hanging on that wall. I said, I don't understand. Is this the HOA space or is this Parker? Oh, it's the HOA space. I said, then why is Parker's business license in here? We forgot to take it down. Is that the world-class amenities that you were promised when you moved into Serrano? Where landscaping is beautiful. Our CC&Rs, if reasonably enforced, provide us a quality of life here that's unmatched in the Sacramento area. But fundamentally as a business, as a corporation, which we are, we're failing at our most fundamental, on the most fundamental level. We have no tangible assets to show after 20 years. Imagine if you were paying rent, instead of paying rent for 20 years, if you were paying off the note for your clubhouse. It would be paid off by now. And your dues would go down because you wouldn't be paying a note anymore. But as we stand here today, 2015, at our 20th anniversary, you own nothing. And that's insane to me. We can do better. But we're not going to do better until owners take control of the board. Because there are business interests here that have a vested interest in keeping things just like they are. There's a handful of folks in this room tonight. And you need to understand what's at stake in this election. The developer has created a situation in our documents where they will control 2,400 votes in this election. So before you ever get your ballot, before ever you decide if any one of us is worthy to serve on your board, 2,400 votes will be cast by the developer. Do you think they're voting for me? I don't. They're going to vote for people that support the status quo, that support their business interests. And if we don't get the word out to our friends and neighbors that this is the time, now, with one owner squarely on the board, that this is the time to put owners in the majority and fundamentally change how Serrano treats its owners. I don't know how long it will take. This is our moment. So 10 years from now, you tell us what it should look like. And then together, we make that a reality. What I hope it doesn't look like is what it looks like today, where your tenants in your own HOA. We can do better than that, but we have to vote. And we haven't done that very well in recent years. We've got to do better. We can do better. And if we stick with it and we get the word out, we talk to our neighbors, the 10 year from now, Serrano won't include any of us because the place will be run so well, you won't need this kind of radical change. You just keep your hand on the wheel. Once the ship is going straight, you just need to keep your hand on the wheel. We're not there yet. We got to make a hard right turn and then we can go forward.
Thank you, Mr. Thompson. Okay, very good. We have one final question.